Last we left off, our heroes were fighting with prehistoric Pokemon, courtesy of the Museum of Evolution's director, and were able to acquire their own fossil Pokemon. Jess asked for the Kabutops, Kurt asked for the Amara, Abigail opted for the Tortuga, and Jenny asked for the Tyrant. After departing, the party was stopped by police who were looking for any suspects that may have attacked the professor's laboratory. The party was found to be in possession of too many Pokemon, past the max amount of Pokemon, and not in any possession of a Pokemon trainer's license, which allowed regular people to be in possession of a full team of Pokemon. The party was legally obligated to finish an elementary class on Pokemon in order to qualify for this license. The party passed with flying colors, making up classes, making fun of the kids' classmates, and learning about Pokemon. They were then asked to head to the most historical town of the Osee Region, Sauceria Town, to help Rose City's Pokemon Trainers Association to gather up some more fairy-type Pokemon. Matt was called to act as a guide, but Matt had prompted the party to meet up with him at the hospital for some reason. When the party arrived, they had found Matt in his co-worker's room, and this co-worker was screaming and panicking as they warned Matt of something incoming. In this chaos, an explosion was heard and seen in the Green Tower, Rose City's archive of knowledge and history in the Osee region. And that's where we are now. The party wasted no time and headed out of the hospital to face this fire, and they did not hesitate to leave without gathering any info about what led up to the explosion from Coral's experience after being admitted to the hospital. Jess attempted to recruit nearby onlookers to help with their own water Pokemon to help prevent the spread of the fire to other buildings. However, they realized that the real threat had to be handled as soon as possible, leading them to head into the roaring, growing blaze. Terrible writing. Sirens were heard in the distance, but they also saw a familiar dark figure turn around from the exit on the first floor back upstairs into this large tower where the fire only seemed to grow. The party headed up the tower, avoiding flaming, crumbling debris, smoke-filled floors, and encountering the source of the growing fire, a Magmar. With Jess and Jenny sending both Tyrant and Archie, the Growlithe, they helped pursue this arsonist. And the party took care of the Magmar swiftly by basically pushing them out the large windows that acted as a wall for the library. The party's mystic waters they received from Lily Marsh and the fire-resistant clothing from Fire Lily Lake helped them survive some encounters and reduce some damage from the fiery environment. The party then headed to the top floor of the tower, where the foundation began to crumble under all the burning as firefighters gathered outside to help tame this collapsing building. Reaching the top floor, they found the suspect being harassed by Tyrant biting down on their leg, and this person was holding a briefcase. During this struggle, the party was able to see a gold sea shimmering in the light, flooding through the glass walls. And with some great rolls, Tyrant, Growlithe, and Munchlax coordinate a graceful belly flop / body slam onto this mysterious villain as their legs were pinned down. As their body was slowly crushed by Munchlax, they threw their hand out, dropping the metal case. Jenny then approached this grappled villain and revealed a familiar face. It was Matt! Nah, just kidding. It was Penny. Double slapped the foe, and Austin and the DM argued over the realism of getting pinned down by your legs and chest, but not your arms. It was only then Penny reached for a Pokeball and pulled out a ball that revealed a large, upside-down Pokeball creature revealed to be an Electrode. Give me the briefcase, and we all don't die. You care about your friends, right? Now, be a good kid, and give me back the briefcase. If you know it's good for you. For everyone. And Kurt, in an attempt to shut up Penny, Kurt told Munchlax to sit on her face and tried to kiss her? Weird. Okay, but Penny rolled with disadvantage, but was still able to punch him while Munchlax had a shit-eating grin before making Penny a bottom feeder. That was a direct reference to WAP. You're welcome. But in this hasty moment, Penny punched Munchlax and commanded Electrode to shock the party as a moment of superiority. The DC was high, and the party's health was relatively low. The highest pool at 7 HP, and this Electrode rolling 3d6, against the trainers at least. However, Jenny jumped in Abigail's way to help protect her friend, taking additional damage to prevent Abigail going unconscious or even dying from this attack. Jenny barely hanging on after taking a high voltage attack, but Tyrant became paralyzed and Archie was still grabbing onto Penny. Abigail still holding the briefcase. Penny smiled at Abigail. Get off me, you mangy mutt! Abigail, was it? If you want your friends to live, you'll give that to me. Now. Abigail, in this tense moment, remembering the sacrifice of her parents and not wanting her friends to die, she began walking to Penny with the briefcase, but asked her a question. Why was she doing all of this? I guess I'll humor you. You see, I was hired by Cooperi to infiltrate Professor Dogwood's lab. We found out that the old bitch was getting close to finding out the key to longevity. You see, my boss said we should take it. So I got hired a couple years back, a long plan in the making, and we're not going to have some stupid kids ruin it now. Everything I've collected from the lab and the stupid library is in that briefcase, along with some other things. But I've already said enough. Now, give me the briefcase, little girl. Abigail then suddenly thrusted the briefcase into Penny's face, getting an 18 versus Penny's flat-footed 6. Penny's greed consumed her in the moment and found her mouth full of steel from this highly coveted briefcase falling flat on her ass. Jess's turn came around, and on the brink of death, Jess's mind was racing and her options were getting more and more limited. She prompted Archie to use an ember on Penny's leg, automatically hitting her and attempting to light her clothes on fire as a distraction. Meanwhile, Jess's polywag, Waggypole, used a quickly timed hypnosis to attempt to put the electrode to sleep. But the electrode was able to get a natural 20 by using their quick wits to turn away. Or rather, they just turned away on their big spherical body. Everyone then attempted to find cover with their movement, but Abigail found herself still standing there in shock from her newfound bravery. Abigail found herself alone, except for a lone Whooper, Matt's Whooper right next to Electrode for some reason. Abigail then attempted to roll Poke knowledge to find out what would happen, but was really unable to really tap into her knowledge about Whooper. But she realized how healthy he looked despite the wild electric attack that came from Electrode earlier. Jenny's turn came around and she looked at the Whooper, who replied with a simple, "Ah!" Jess and Jenny worked together to find out Whooper's natural instinct, and they figured this might be related to Electrode's electricity somehow. Abigail's turn came around, and Bianca, the player's mind, was racing and beginning to freak out. Abigail determined that Penny may be bluffing with some lower rolls, but decided to run against all odds. Finally, Electrode's turn came around and got a slow nod of confirmation from Penny. An energy began to build within the Electrode, with smoke escaping from its mouth. But right before it was able to unleash, it went kaput. It tries to explode again. Can't seem to get the spark. It's okay. Happens to, a lot of electrodes. It happens to probably about 3 out of 10 electrodes in the Osee region. It's kind of cold. It's hot in here. There's a lot of pressure. But then the electrode turned and then heard this magical noise. Ah! Whooper smiled at the electrode, and all of a sudden a bright light began to emerge from Whooper's body, evolving right before the party, giving everyone in the room a big, deep "oh." A new Quagsire stood before the party. Then this new Quagsire then slammed their tail into the electrode, pushing them out of the tower's huge window. The electrode flew outside and looked at the building one last time to let their own little "ah" before exploding midair. Penny, in a final attempt, took out her Stantler to help pry Archie off her leg when things started looking bad for her. Archie vigilantly held onto Penny, even though they were getting kicked in the face repeatedly. Kurt's turn came around, and Kurt wanted to body slam Stantler out of the window as well, but unfortunately missed. Squirtle also headed to the Stantler in an attempt to bite the Stantler, and began to evolve out of frustration for missing this almost disgusted, pity-filled Stantler. Squirt. The shiny Squirtle began to turn red as past memories from the battle in Fire Lily Lake fueled this rapid, surprising evolution into a grand Wartortle, successfully biting the Stantler after gaining a new name, Wirt. Wirt and Kurt, formerly known as Squirt, now known as Wirt. Jess tried to use some diplomacy by telling Penny to recall her Pokemon. Penny began to panic, but desperately stayed in the fight as she cursed Whooper. So Penny took the whole brunt of Archie's flamethrower, and Stantler failed Waggypole's hypnosis attack. But Penny refused to give up, knowing what lied in the future for her if she were to completely give up in this final moment. So Bagon decided to attack, and the gang decided to only knock her out. Bagon did a final dab and knocked out Penny with this very violent headbutt. However, the fire below had climbed up to the top of the tower where our party was. The party then came up with an idea to get out of the burning building. Jess quickly mentioned her Larvesta that knew String Shot, and the party attempted to find some bug Pokemon, or at least some flying Pokemon that knew String Shot, to create this webby hammock for them to ride down. With a stroke of good luck, Vespiquen was able to call some Combi to come help lower the team, including Jess's recently released Combi to come help. They quickly wrapped up Penny completely in a String Shot except for a couple breathing holes. However, the building was beginning to collapse as the team members jumped one by one onto the hammock. Kurt was the last one to jump. However, the building shook violently, with the floor burning through and the green tower's legs buckling as it held Kurt. Kurt jumped, reaching his hands out to his party, but the floor underneath him gave way. He rolled his dex check. So they're floating there, and you kind of feel the tower sort of shaking as the foundations are burning. So I need you to make me a dexterity saving throw.
Why do you want to sit down? You see?
Go ahead, just do it, it's okay.
You got this pigment. 7.
Kurt Mitt, a 40-year-old man. He didn't have a very good life, I guess. But whatever he did have, what he did have was flashing before his eyes as he looked into the vast, smoke-filling sky. The sunshine blinded him as he watched his life pass by rapidly. And all Kurt could think was, "Man, what a boring life." He thought about his office job, being the head telemarketer, getting the promotion, coming home to nothing. His life was empty. And when he finally had a taste of this Pokemon-filled life, something that he would have never dreamed of, he was going to die. He closed his eyes, his senses taking in everything before the end. The smell of the fire, burning paper, the cries of his friends, the beating bug wings, the people screaming below, the taste of blood from the earlier fight. It was short. This journey, though, was fun. All of a sudden, a screech. A familiar, raptor-like screech. A sudden whoosh was heard as the party saw a red blur dive down past them, and Kurt felt an extremely strong grip on his forearm. His eyes shot open to see the silhouette of a huge bird and a man sitting atop his new savior. It was Adam Hunter, the treasure hunter extraordinaire, who surprisingly works for the evolution of Mon, here to save the day and save Kurt from his predetermined destination. Adam Hunter explained that he was always rowdy and excitable about his findings and work, and the kick in the pants from the party was exactly what he needed to grow. This makes it even between him and the party. The party was lowered to the ground, and they watched the tower buckle in on itself. It was only a matter of time before the green tower was about to become the black rubble. However, a car was heard approaching quickly. Sleek, expensive, and almost as if it belonged to someone very important. We then see a woman step out of the car. Her appearance was neat and sharp, but her gaze was cold and sharper. Her eyes were narrowed, and she carried an air of authority. She approached the party and introduced herself as Captain Vera, the leader of the local authorities here. After a quick introduction, Captain Vera's expression lightened up when Jess mentioned that Professor Dogwood was her grandmother. And then she told Jess that the solution was something from her grandfather's work. She pulled out a Pokeball, and out came a huge Venusaur. She said it came from the best, and asked her Venusaur Venus to use Frenzy Plant to help the Green Tower. Venus leapt into the air, and once it landed back on the ground, the earth shook, and huge roots and plant-like tendrils sprang forth and grew upside the Green Tower. The tower was fully secured by these thick, wooden roots, and now atop the Green Tower was a huge flower that closely resembled the flower atop Venus's back. Similar to a rose almost, this beautiful expression of life, the perfect symbol befitting the captain as an authoritative leader of Rose City, crowd and party cheered, and soon a cacophony of buzzing was heard in the distance as the once local bug Pokemon were beginning to return to Foxglove Forest. The Rose was acting as a beacon for all the bug Pokemon that had left but not yet returned. The party was admitted to the hospital to treat their wounds, and they were able to get all their health back. As the party recovered, Matthew visited and told Jess about their grandmother's condition. She had a case of something similar to amnesia, and perhaps may never recover her memory again. Jenny offered up her rainbow feather from Ho-Oh as a gesture of goodwill. Matthew and Jess thanked her wholeheartedly, and Matt even promised compensation for this unforgettable deed. They pressed the feather against Professor Dogwood's head, and a beautiful light filled the room. As the light died down, they saw Professor Dogwood's expression change from confused to a warm, familiar smile, with Professor Dogwood immediately recognizing the two and saying, "Well, if it isn't my favorite grandchildren." They shared an embrace, and all was well in Rose City. Professor Dogwood was even able to see that Jenny was looking for something quite rare, something of value, or even a legend. Something known as the Folium Foliage. And how Professor Dogwood knew all this is still a mystery to this day for the campaign, but she explained that the Folium Foliage was the key for Jenny's path to restoring her flower shop in Hydrangea Falls, and even more, possibly exploring where her fate led her. Professor Dogwood, the strongest lady you'll ever meet, was out of the hospital as quick as she was admitted, walking with a cane and ready to do some more research. Captain Vera called the team into her office, claiming that they might be the right team for this mission. She explained that the team had discovered more and more poison-type Pokemon appearing in Foxglove Forest, as well as polluted waters coming through. Something was happening, and some recon showed that the source may be coming from a place called Dragonite Bluff, a lake with a lone cliff and this huge waterfall that poured from. This lone huge cliff was shaped as a Dragonite and even home to some Dragon-type Pokemon, if there were any still inside its caverns. Captain Vera was even able to find a factory inside the cavern, and she revealed photographs of Cooperi's wrongdoings. These pictures revealed mutilated baby Pokemon, needles in the small weak bodies with the life drained out of them, some even missing limbs, almost as if it was from experimentation. She further explained that Cooperi may be using these baby Pokemon to test on since they're not fully developed physically. The party was eager to go, and Captain Vera tasked them to end these crimes against Pokemon and humanity. The party departed and ran into Matthew. He gave them some new data for their new Pokewatches, a voice synthesizer for the Pokemon language. They immediately tested them out, listening to the Pokemon shockingly refer to their trainers as their masters, and finding out that the technology is quite limited except for one Pokemon. They then headed to Jenny's sweet scent trap that she had laid before to reveal some Pokemon that Jenny wanted to give to the rest of the party. Jenny had caught a Petalil for Kurt, a Vanillite for Abigail, and a Spritzee for Jess. Unfortunately for the party, though, the recent events had forced Matthew to stay. He called in a favor to a friend to help the party get through Foxglove Forest. The party then headed out of Rose City to head to find Dragonite Bluff to once again stop Cooperi, and that's where we ended our session, and was the final episode of our Rose City arc. Whew. Man, like, listening to it and then having to type up like a whole recap for it, I don't know, just brings up a lot of nostalgia for me, because we played this such a long time ago. I think it's been almost a year and a half ago now, which is pretty insane, but also it just shows to you guys how much content we still have that I need to edit and I need to bust my ass over. But if to host the podcast does take a little bit of money, so if you like what you heard and if you want to support us, please visit our Patreon at www.patreon.com/OSEEPKMNpod. I totally didn't have to look that up. Yeah, and if you just want to follow us, the players themselves, we do have an Instagram, and that's at www.instagram.com/theOSEEPKMNpodcast. And I totally didn't have to look that up either. I'm so good at this. Shout out to our patrons, Mars and Jacob. Thank you guys so much for your support. You know what? I'm going to give Raichu this special move. They're just going to no explosion, because why the fuck not? And the damp ability that comes from Wooper and Quagsire doesn't apply to it. So congratulations, you have an overpowered Raichu. For evil. Again, Raichu's so evil. This Raichu's so bad. I don't know why I'm making it so strong. If you also want to get an overpowered Pokemon, again, that's on our Patreon. If you go ahead and support us, I believe it's the $2 tier. I don't know. Anything helps, especially listening to us. I check the numbers like crazy every day, just to get my endorphins going, which is, probably bad for me, but, I love it so much. I crave it. Just people listening makes me so happy. And we did hit over 500 downloads, which is fantastic. I wish that, all the episodes had over 500, and I gestured with my hand just now. That's a really bad habit. But anyway, thank you again so much for listening. I sincerely hope you enjoyed this, regardless of the quality, if you do listen to the full episode, to find out some more of the sort of inside jokes, as well as which Pokemon has the most elegant voice from the synthesizer. I will not spoil that. Yeah, I'm not going to spoil it. But again, thank you again so much for listening. It does truly humble me that so many people are listening still, especially if you're a repeat listener. Again, if you're a repeat listener, please go to our Instagram. I would love to give you a shout out, like a trainer name, any name. I just want to give some recognition to you guys for sticking around with us. Again, thank you guys so much. It means the world to us. And shout out to our friends over at BK Pokeshop. I know I'm not done yet with all these plugs. They support us whenever they can, which is fantastic. Truly, I appreciate them. If you let them know that they're from us, again, that's at BK Pokeshop on Instagram. If you tell them that you're from the OC Pokemon Podcast, you'll get 10% off your purchase. We don't really get anything out of it. We just like to support them. Again, they're very close friends with us, and they do help us get promoted as much as they can, here and there. And if you actually live in Orange County, shout out to Go to the Mugs. Yeah, Go to the Mugs in Westminster. It's off Westminster and I believe Beach in Westminster. So if you're in SoCal, head over there. I've got a friend working at there too. Just tell her that you're from the podcast as well. Maybe she'll give you a discount. We'll see. Again, not sponsored or anything. I just like shouting them out. Again, thank you again so much for listening. I know I said that a couple times already, but I truly am very thankful. And I hope you enjoy the next ARP that's coming up. It's actually one of my personal favorites, as well as Jenny's absolute favorite out of all the ARCs that we've played. Okay, again, until next time, one last final thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye, guys.